everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Jared Nicole Show every Tuesday from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. I'm super excited because I'm going to bring on two amazing ladies to the screen for our interview today. We're going to be talking about children's education through books and storytelling. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring them both on the screen right now. Hello? Can she hear me?
Hi.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, anyone.
Give her one second.
There you are. Hello.
Yes, alrighty. Hi, how are you guys today?
Doing fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for taking time out your day to come on the show. I'm super excited to have you guys on the show today. So I just wanted to start off by letting you both introduce yourself to viewers, and then we'll dive right into the conversation from there.
All right. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, but I
can.
Okay, great. I guess I'll go first. My name is Udhedhe Olakpe. I am a co-founder of a publishing company called Agbada Books, which I founded with my sister Ufuoma, who's also on the screen with us. And I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and a mother of one boy. I'm an engineer, and I've worked in the construction industry for over a decade now. But my work as a children's book publisher was born out of passion for stories and for heritage and for transferring or for introducing children to their heritage through books. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. Alrighty, I'll let you go now. Oh, is it paused? There might be a little bit of a connection problem on her end.
Yes.
Yes, there might be.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what to. I don't know if you kind of want to introduce your sister. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about her while we're trying to get that.
Yes, I guess we'll just do it on the fly like this. So my sister Ufuoma, she's my big sister. She's also a mom. She's also an engineer.
Wow.
She's a mother of two kids. And we started Agbada Books because we were just talking, about ourselves and the fact that we have small children, and what some of the stories and some of the things that we wanted to teach our children, we couldn't really see them or find them in books. And so we decided, why don't we take the bull by the horns? Instead of complaining or instead of, wondering why things aren't the way they are, why don't we produce those books that we want to see our children and people like us give to their children? So that was kind of the reason why we got into Agbada Books and why we founded the company.
Absolutely. I think that's incredible because when I think back to when I was a child, for instance, I didn't see many books where people who looked like me, right, were on the cover. I didn't see any. I can tell you about, like, in school we read like Dr. Seuss books, Amelia Bedelia, Ramona Quimby, age 8. I could just go on, but none of those books had characters where they, looked like me. And especially, I would say there's a little bit more now, but I would still say in terms of visibility for even African, right, children, I still don't see that many books for African children, and let alone in school, in the school system, I don't see teachers, kind of bringing these books forward. So I think it's incredible and amazing what you guys are doing. So can you just tell me a little bit more about what children can learn from these books, the type of stories that are in them, what you really hope that not only just children, but also parents can take away? What's your message to the parents about these books?
Okay, so I'll use our first book as an example. Our first book, we decided to do an alphabet book. because we were looking at, parents who they may not have a chance to be with people from the same community that they're from. And so they're raising their children, maybe they're first generation immigrants, or maybe they're growing up in a place where they're a minority of sorts. And
Right.
what do you do as a parent when you want to introduce your culture to your child? And so we said we go
Mm,
back to our culture and we would do something like that as like a first, a first of many books. And so we did an A to Z. And with that book, you can really give a sense of what contemporary life is like in a different country, without necessarily having to have visited or been to that country before. So for parents, I guess the message that we want to give to parents is that even though you might be away from where you grew up, even though you might be in a new culture, you can still use books as a way to introduce your culture to your children. And for people from other cultures, I mean, I think the world is becoming smaller and smaller
mm,
as we go by, especially with technology and travel becoming so accessible to many people. It's so important that from an early age, we are able to give children a window into what people are like across the world,
right.
that will help them develop like empathy, help them develop
Mm,
appreciation, help them develop respect for other cultures, which is so crucial, especially when we see some of the things that are happening in the news today. I think some of those things are stemming from, you're othering people because you have no way to really connect with them on a human level. But when from childhood you're exposed to books that give you, we're all human, we all have different and interesting things that make us similar, that make us different. But if as a
right.
child you're exposed to that, you'll grow into an adult that's really appreciative of diversity, and that will appreciate people regardless of where they come from or who they are. So that's kind of the grand vision of what we're trying to accomplish with our
Right.
books.
Which I
Yes.
which I absolutely love that. Before I go to my next question, now that we have Ufuoma back, I did want to, your sister kind of introduced you earlier, but I did want to give you the opportunity to speak and just introduce yourself, and then we'll continue from there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. I'm
Yeah, of
Ufuoma
course.
Olakpe, the other half of this small publishing company. I have two girls, Nesochi and Nefechi. They're 4.5 and 2.5.
Hmm.
I'm an engineer. I manage IT projects on the Google Cloud by day. Um, I did get my master's. I got an MBA and a master's in information systems from Baylor in Waco, Texas. And I got my
Absolutely.
first stint working, my first job ever in Houston, Texas. So lived for a while there in Houston. But now I'm with my family in Denver, Colorado. We call Denver, Colorado home. So that's a little bit about me. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah.
This is, yes, thank you for sharing that. This is incredible. So, my next question for you guys is kind of, I know you told us, you shared a little bit about the vision and the hopes and the background about it, but what I especially love was it's two sisters coming together to create this company. So, I don't know whoever wants to jump in first, but if you guys can kind of tell me like how you guys kind of came together and partnered and came up with the name and all of that good stuff, and just the journey from there.
Sure. So I had been talking with another of our sisters about how I really had all these stories from when, we were children. I want to write, I want to write, I want to write. And then I
Mm,
started putting some stories on a Google Doc and sharing with her. But
okay.
she was very busy. And apparently Udede, on the other hand, was also talking to her separately about, oh, I want to write stories. But and she's like, wait a minute, you guys are saying the same thing. You should get together. And I'm like,
Right.
"Udede, you want to do this too?" She's like, you want to do this too? And we just got together and started to talk about what we wanted to do, and we jived, and we wanted the same thing. So
Mm,
we decided on Agbada Books. The initial idea was Udedes, and I was like 100%. I love the name because the name fully represents who we are. We were born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, and the Agbada is a popular attire that's worn by both men and women all over Africa, actually.
Wow.
But we grew up seeing people wear it, and we were like, you know what? Let's call our company Agbada Books. And
Love.
so that was how it started, with two of us just getting together and wanting to share stories that we heard our dad and grandfather tell us while growing. Do you want to add to that?
No, I think you said it all. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. No, I absolutely love that. I think it's so I think it's so incredible and inspiring to see two sisters come together. I love how you said the one sister's like, you guys are saying the same thing. Let's just come together and make it happen. And then the fact that you guys are able to do all of this while having other full-time jobs and being full-time moms, full-time wives, just all of that stuff. So in terms of like, COVID, with COVID this past year has just been, not only just this year, but last year has just been kind of really tough and hard. What were some of the challenges that you guys came across and facing trying to start this publishing company in the midst of, the coronavirus? Whoever wants to jump in first can go.
Yeah. So I could talk a little bit about that.
Okay, sure.
I think one of the things, I think 2020 was a tough year for everyone, just in
Right.
general. But I feel that a lot of the trends that we're seeing in terms of work and working from home and being socially distant, they were already kind of in the works. So it's not
Mm,
that. So there were already some tools that we had at our disposal in terms
mm,
of collaborating across. Because I'm no longer in the U.S. like I was when we started the project,
wow.
and so we really had to work across time zones. We had different collaborators. Our illustrator was in Mexico. Some of our graphics people were in Trinidad. We're working with people in the US. We're working with the agents for our illustrator that's in the UK. So in the midst of all this, we had the pandemic start. And then at that point, we really had to go back. And I think we had a little bit of a lull where we
Mm,
were just kind of dealing with everything that was going on in the world, the lockdowns, etc. But I think once we kind of found our way out of that, we kind of said, okay, are we really going to do this?
mm,
We have this vision, we have these stories that we feel will resonate with people across cultures, and so we had to sit down and really recommit. I know at some point I called my sister and I said, I don't think I can do this anymore, and she always reminds she always reminds me. So she had to like kind of coach me or like cheer me on and say, we can do this. We've come a long way on this journey. Let's not give up now. That kind of pep talk. And so
right.
once we kind of moved past that bump, I think we were okay. I think I'm very grateful for the technology that we have today, because I don't think that would have gotten the
Mm,
work that we wanted to do done. We relied on a lot of people that we've never met before, and
wow.
I haven't seen my sister since the pandemic. I haven't seen
Wow.
her. So, yeah, so it's been a lot of late nights, a lot of conference calls, a lot of Zoom calls. But it's just the way the world is now, and we're just
Right.
adapting as we move through it. But it's been great. Clearly, we're still here, and we have our first book. So clearly, things are working out, and we're making it happen.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Did you wanna add anything to that, Uvoma, or
Well, one big thing that happened was just as the pandemic started, we lost our dad. So
Oh my
that
god, I'm
kind
so
of
sorry. Oh,
our dad passed away very suddenly, and it was just and Udide talking about, I don't want to go on with this. Part of it stemmed from that. It was just a little too much for us to deal
mm,
with, everything, the dynamics, the hurt, the pain of that, and deal with the pandemic and
mm,
everything that came with the pandemic. But we had to just be there for each other, and we had to kind of
right.
channel everything into this book, because this book and all our books are an ode to our dad.
Mm,
it's this is in honor of him. So we had to remind ourselves that, he inspired this. So we are going to, move on and, push through. It was tough, but we got together and we decided to do this because he'll be smiling down, saying,
Right.
"Go girls, go girls."
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful and so touching. And I love how it brought you guys even closer and how you guys are just you're using it to motivate you guys and keep pushing and just keep going forward. One of the other questions that I had for you ladies today is a lot of times when people see a book, right, and maybe they see like they see an African child on it or they see African stories for children. I'll say here, I'll speak for in the US at least. In the US, a lot of times maybe, Caucasians or Hispanics or other, ethnicities or races don't see the value, right? And buying those books for their children because they're thinking, oh, well, this just caters to, right, African children, or this just caters to Hispanic children. And so I want to hear from both of you ladies as to why you would, kind of go against that argument and why you would say sharing stories like the ones that you guys have are so important for children and no matter and regardless of what race, ethnicity, creed, nationality. So again, whoever wants to chime in first.
Sure. I will start and then hand over the baton to Dede. I think that, and I think she might have touched on it a little bit before I had like internet disruption there. But
No
in
problem.
our world today, like cultural exchange is so crucial to,
Mhm.
raising a balanced child. So, it doesn't matter if you're Mexican, or you're Asian or you're African. The more we learn about each other, the more we see that we're not so different, and
Right,
then even in the areas where we are different, we just celebrate those differences. We respect those differences, and we find out that it's easier to get along. So once we start very early with a child, because parents are so influential in shaping their children, once you expose your children to a variety of cultures,
mm,
you're doing your bit to raise up a balanced child, who can see the world with a fuller picture, so to
right.
speak. So I would highly encourage people out there to be open and to, do their bit in raising well balanced children.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would add just a little bit to that. I would say, even if the important aspect of cultural exchange, but you
Right.
also have to look at your child and think about how can you raise a child that's imaginative? How can you raise a child that's creative?
Mm,
How can you raise a
mm,
child that's curious? How can you raise a child that, is able to exist in different spaces successfully?
right.
And I think you can raise a child with those characteristics by exposing them from a young age to as many different scenarios and people as possible. When you raise a child that's sheltered in terms of their worldview, you are doing them a huge disservice.
Mhm.
So I would say to anyone Africa on there, so because I'm not African, that means it's not for me. You're doing yourself and your child a huge disservice because they will only benefit from the creativity, the imagination that gets from exploring something different in the world. Um, excuse me. I would also say that children are curious people, and we shouldn't. And as adults, I feel like sometimes we impose our own. I don't know what to call it. Things that were passed on to us. Let's just put it that way. We
Mm,
impose them on our children, but if you leave children on their own and you observe them, you find that they're really, really curious about everybody and about everything. And so we should try to foster that and encourage that because it will only help in terms of the ideas that will come out from them as they grow. So
right.
don't limit yourself to books that only represent your background. Give your
Mm,
child that gift of a broad worldview, and they'll thank you for it, and the world will thank you for it at some
right.
point when you share what they have learned. So yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's such a great point because I also think your books can definitely aid in, even fighting against stereotypes, right? Because a lot of times I'll just speak on for myself. Growing up here in America, the only thing, unfortunately, that we ever really seem to learn about just Africa, right, as a continent and in general, is just what we saw on TV, right? I don't want to call names out for organizations, but the commercials promoting like children, starving and not healthy, or they don't have, kind of those negative stereotypes. And then it's not until, unless people either go to the countries or, like you guys said, read these books or come in contact with people, they learn like, what? Oh my God, I didn't know that there were so many languages and different types of people in Africa. And I know a lot of people don't even really understand the continent in general. Most people just kind of think it's a country, or I can't tell you how many times people have said like, I don't speak African, and it's just like there's not a language that's called African. So just different things like that. And I think it's really incredible that for people like you guys said, no matter what race, reading these books can kind of help fight against those stereotypes. So my next question for you guys, in terms of future projects with these books, is it something that you guys want to get in school systems? Is there any projects that you guys want to share with me? And you can kind of just let me know I know you kind of summarize your overall vision, but are there any special projects, or you guys can go into detail about what the next 5, 10, 15 years you guys are hoping looks like?
Sure. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we're hoping that we can give other other authors a platform to share their stories through our publishing company. Yeah,
Okay.
there are stories from Africa, because Africa is a whole wide continent. So there's all sorts of stories from different countries on that continent. So we hope that we would create that platform for people to share those stories. And then in terms of schools, rather, we have a plan to visit different schools and try to get our books into the hands of the teachers, so that as many kids as possible can read the stories from Agbada Books.
Wow. So did you want to add?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would just add to that. So in terms of projects, we've just launched our first book. It's titled A is for Agbada, an African Alphabet Adventure. And like I mentioned earlier, it will take you on an A to Z adventure on what life is like in a contemporary African country. So we're talking about what is life like today. I know there's the stories of the kids. I know there's all the stereotypes and everything, but what is life really like today? And so that's our first book. It's focused on Nigeria, which is the largest, most populated country in Africa. So it will give you a very, very, very unique picture into Africa in a fun way that kids will love. The illustrations are beautiful. It has rhyming sentences. There are different like early learning concepts that we wanted to touch on, like the alphabets, counting, rhyming, that kids that in that young age gap of age 0 to 5 will really benefit from. And we really wanted to do it in a fun way, because we didn't want to write a textbook about Africa. We didn't want to write a history book about Africa. We wanted to just be like, here's a fun book for you kids, read this book. But meanwhile, you're going to be seeing what life is like for somebody else on the other side of the world. So that's our first book. It's available now. We're doing a pre-order via Kickstarter, and anyone that wants to order it can go to agbadabookskickstarter.com and order it. And we're hoping that once we're done with that, we're going to do a wide launch where it will be available on all platforms for anyone that really wishes to get their hands on these types of books. And like Ufuoma said, we're not stopping there. We have grand visions for the future. We're going to get into schools. We're going to get into as many institutions that promote Black African history, so that we are telling our stories on our own terms, and we're giving the world a way to learn about Africa, to learn about Black history, Black culture, like for other authors to come on our platform and use that to also publish their stories, and get the world to know that, African and African stories can be fun, and that children will enjoy them just like they enjoy other books that they read. So that's what we have for now.
I absolutely love that, and I think that's just phenomenal because, like I said, it comes at a time when it's so needed. I mean, it was always needed, right? It's been needed for a long time, but this could not come at a more important time, especially how you stated earlier, just with everything that's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of racial tension, there's a lot of issues and problems. And I think books like these, like you guys said, will just open people's mindsets and challenge people's perspectives or kind of those, myths or even misconceptions that they really have. So I want to talk a little bit about this might be positioned as a weird question, but African pride. Because I know a lot of times, I'll just say me as an African American woman, since I essentially don't know where exactly I'm from in Africa, it can kind of, I don't want to say kind of be like a Debbie Downer or kind of lower your self-esteem, but it's it's not like I never really felt like I had a platform to kind of learn and celebrate my culture, my history. And so again, like I'm saying, connecting this back to your book, for children, especially I would say African American children growing up here, or even children who are African, but let's say they're raised predominantly here in the US, a lot of times you find they, like you spoke earlier, they might lose their culture. Some parents, when they come over here, they don't choose to teach their child the language, their native language or their mother tongue that they learn. They kind of just adapt to the US and westernized, values and way of life. And in terms of that, they kind of can lose that confidence, that self-esteem, and that pride. So I wanted to hear from you both on why you believe, African pride and just celebrating your culture and history, whether it's through books, movies, films, just the food you eat, why that's so important to you both as well, especially as two beautiful Nigerian women. So I wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Yeah, that is such a great question. Before I had kids, I'd lived in the US for maybe about 8 years or something like that. And I found that I was always looking for ways, little tidbits of home. I was
Mm,
always maybe through my clothes or through, when I arrive in a city, first thing I'm Googling is where can I get Nigerian food? Where can I do this and where can I do that? I was always looking for how to connect home because I would have like this part of me that just longed to connect
mm,
even though I was growing up, in a, or not growing up, even though I was living in another country.
right.
So uh, I want to, with Agbada Books, help to solve that.
Mm,
As parents are looking for ways that they can connect and their children can connect, we want to provide resources in the form of books that they can use to really live their experiences growing up and transfer those experiences to their kids. And in
mm,
so doing, you're raising up a well-balanced child that has connection to their roots, but is also here aware of, the Western culture as well. So that's why I'm so excited about Abada Books is, we just have Africans telling African stories,
mm,
And so we're telling those stories and we're giving parents resources. Say, hey, here are books that you can read with your child and create memories that the child will carry with them through the years into adulthood. So I think that that's why we're so excited about Abada Books, and that's why we want to help children and parents stay connected to where they're from and
right.
little tidbits of home here in the US.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if she wanted to add.
Udhedhe, are you still there?
Hello.
Is she still there?
I'm here. Sorry, guys.
Okay, no problem.
I'm still here.
Did you want to add to
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I hope you can hear me because I have so many things to say
Yeah, no problem.
here. Okay, so well, for me, I would speak more on the African American, um, um, like, and I'm going to say, I'm going to put myself in your shoes, and I hope you can hear me, and
I
kind of
can.
say some of the things you said, where you wish to connect with your roots, but you don't know where to start, or you don't
Yeah.
know how to go about it. And I think there's a huge movement going on right now, and I really hope that it continues to build of both sides of the African and the African American or the African diaspora kind of coming together and saying, this is who we are, and this is our history. Let's get to know about each other. There's more of a consciousness like involved, whereas before I think everyone was kind of moving in their own bubbles and things like that. But I
Right.
think, and I hope that I'm seeing what I'm seeing is true. Like last year was the year of.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost her.
Oh no, we lost her. She was making a really good point. Hopefully she will be able to hopefully she'll be able to come back. But in the meantime, oh, it looks like she's about to pop back in. I'll wait. Okay, I'll wait for it to get back in. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask you, do you have any stories from just, people who have bought your books and said what it meant to them, or even family members, or even your own children who have said, Mommy, I love these books.
Yes.
We're waiting for your sister. Maybe you can share with us one of those.
Yeah, so we opened the book up to advanced readers or early readers, so to speak, to read the book and tell us what they think. And we got a lot of positive feedback from our early readers on how this book is such a light and fun way to connect to contemporary Africa, and how they can't wait to read the book with their children. As for my kids, it was a little scary at first when I'm like, hey, Mama wrote this book. What do you all think? And it was just very nice to see them pointing to the different characters in the book and asking, Mommy, what is this and what is this? And then I would walk them through and explain to them what each of the items were. So in general, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback and excitement from family and from friends, as can be shown with our Kickstarter campaign, where we did get fully funded with our first goal in 24 hours. And so now
Wow.
we're stretching for what we're calling stretch goals, where we can create more higher quality books. We can donate more books to Books for Africa, which is a nonprofit organization in Africa that gives books to kids all over the continent. So as we reach for those stretch goals, we're encouraging people to just go on our website, agbadabookskickstarter.com, to pre-order the book.
Great. Okay. You are back. Yay, we got you back. Sorry, I just technology,
I'm so
it
sorry.
happens. No, you're fine. Technology, it happens. So I will go ahead and let you continue where you left off.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I was talking about, this moment that we're having where Africans and the African diaspora are making a more conscious effort at reconnecting. Last year was the year of return, where there was an event in Ghana where people from all over the world came back
Wow.
to kind of experience Africa. And it was massive. And I think that's opening up a lot of doors in terms of dialogue, in terms of reconnecting that we can do across Africa and the diaspora. And I hope that the African American community can key into books like ours or platforms like ours, because it's Africans telling our own stories. A lot of the stories about Africa are told by non-Africans, and I think that has really affected the quality and the variety of stories about Africa that we've had,
Right.
that we've consumed, even from as children. And I'm talking of even we in Africa, it has affected us. So I think now that we have this kind of movement where we're directly engaging across the African and African diaspora communities, that it will really help, and that platforms like ours, books that or publishers like ours will be instrumental in, restarting or resetting that communication on our own terms, where we're telling our own stories, we're looking at each other directly and talking directly to each other, as opposed to through the filter of colonialism, or through the filter of slavery, or through the filter of
Mm,
all these things that have transpired in the past that we were not necessarily completely in control of. I'm
right.
hopeful that we can use the tools that we have, like technology is a powerful tool, books are a powerful tool. I would speak for us growing up in Nigeria. We consumed a lot of British
Mm,
media, but our
right.
mom was a teacher, and so she gave us a lot of books about by
Wow.
Africans. And I feel like that is part of the reasons why we are so strongly we're so passionate about what we're doing now, is because we know the effect those books had on us growing up.
Mm,
And so we hope that as we move forward, more people from Africa, more people from the African diaspora would really key into this kind of platform. Whether you're a writer or whether you're a reader, we have a platform or a story that you can connect to. And yeah, I'm hopeful that it will just continue to grow and grow from where we are today. Yeah.
yes, I absolutely love that, because one of the interesting things that you mentioned earlier was when you were talking about, kind of opening up people's perspectives besides just besides, slavery and other things. Because really, unfortunately, here in the US, the most we're taught about, I would say, our African history is it just begins and ends with slavery. And we're not taught that there were kings and queens that were,
It's
African
about
queens back in the day, and presidents, and just all of these things. And so it's kind of just like a lot of people have this perspective that, like, we don't know about life in Africa pre-slavery. It's almost as if I would say it doesn't exist. And so
Mhm.
I love how your books are connecting children and even parents who are reading these books to their children to contemporary Africa, so people can understand, what's going on now. Or even if your stories do tell things from the past, it's not just this limited view of Africa. And like you guys said, it really can be just so damaging. And I think as I've gotten older, as more people gotten older, it's more frustrating, because it's just like, how long are we going to continue this same narrative of Africa's only this, right? And so that's why I applaud you both so much and encourage you guys to keep going, and anyone who is watching this to definitely buy those books. Because I mean, even for me, probably I know as little about, contemporary Africa right now as opposed to the child reading it. And so it's kind of making me wonder, even though it might be a children's book, I probably definitely could learn something as well. And I'm imagining the parents probably learned stuff as well too. So I did want to ask you guys, is that something that you're looking to explore in the future, books that are like, do you want to just kind of stick to the children's genre, or are you thinking about doing it for older, or do you think your books is just for really anybody regardless of age wise?
Well, you touched on a really important thing, Jera, about how you would learn so much. So that's the thing here, and that excites me so much. Is we've written this book for early readers, but as parents, we would learn so much while reading too. So it's going to be a learning experience for both you and the little
Mm,
one that you're reading to, and that is so key. Um, but also, we intend to write books for kids up to 12 for now. We haven't really discussed, for older
older.
than that. But for now, we're looking at writing books for kids up to 12.
Right.
And we'll see where we go on our journey with that.
Okay. great, because like I said, I'm thinking I could buy it for like my nephew or my little cousin, and I would enjoy reading it to
Oh
them.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
would learn from it. So I'm like, it's kind of like a win-win for anyone who buys the book or or purchases it. Did you want to add anything? I didn't want to leave her out.
Just a little bit. I was going to say in our first book, we actually have a did you know section because we put it in, we try to sit in the shoes of people who don't have that cultural background. So we're not just writing it
Mm,
for someone exactly like us. We're writing it for someone who is like, okay, I'm African American or I'm
mhm.
from another part of the world, but I'm
Right.
reading this book to my child. And so we had a did you know section at the back of the book and we put pronunciation guides in there. We put like additional
Awesome.
fun facts about the different things that we wrote about. And so I really think it's like I said, I would read that book to my son day after day after day because I just feel like it could lead to so many stories, like
Mm,
each alphabet is its own world. And so you can like freestyle with it. Like I read to my son and I sometimes I don't even read the story. I read about the scene around the picture and I
around
create
the
something. Yeah, so you could really take it as far as you want to go, as creatively as you want to read the book. We have something in there, regardless of whether you might not know how to pronounce it. You can always go to the back and say, oh, Agbada, oh, great. And then you go in and you read it to your
Mm,
child, and then you can say, oh, there's a little fact about Agbada. It's an outfit that's worn in these parts of Africa, and it consists of these pieces. And you can just make it really fun for yourself and for your child. So that's really what we want to do is make it a fun experience that will be memorable and that your child will want to go back to over and over again. So yeah, just
absolutely.
a little.
This is amazing. One other question I have for you both is, let's talk a little bit about the mindset of a writer. What do you guys really think it kind of takes in terms of being to be a writer? Because there's different types of writers, but to especially be a children's author, write children's stories, especially stories that educate. What's kind of the mindset you guys would say you have to truly be dedicated to this and be successful? Because I know I think sometimes people think writing is just something easy, right? Or they just think because it's a children's book, oh, anybody can write a children's book. But I'm a writer myself, so I know it's not the case. So I wanted you guys to kind of share with us a little bit about that mindset and what goes behind writing a children's book.
Yeah, that's such a great question. For me, it's trying to think like my children. Children
Mm,
are very curious, like Udede said. So I'm like asking questions, and I could draw inspiration from just about anything that my kids say. It could be
mm,
something they say when we're having our bedtime routine of reading books before they go to bed. It could be something they say while we're walking in the park. I could learn anything at any time. So I just keep my mind open. I keep my ears open. I try to observe my kids because I
mm.
could learn something from them that could help me on the next book that we want to write. So I think that that's very key as a writer is just to be very aware and very open to learning from little people, and not just my kids, from any kids. It could be at church, it could be at school. I'm just open and listening and learning. And another, in addition to that, it's not just kids. Sometimes I will be talking with my friends and they'll say something else, but I'll be like, wow, I think this is a great idea. And then I'll just
Mm.
quickly write it down, and then I'll tell her that, see, I had this conversation with someone and she said this, and I think that it's great for a book. And she'll be like, "Hmm, yeah." So we'll just get a Google Doc going. And one other thing I'll add, and then I'll turn it over to Data, is just be doing a lot of research. So we
Mm.
ask questions in the community, and that took us out of our comfort zone because it's not easy to ask people that you don't know personally.
Right.
But we build relationships, and then we join Facebook groups, we observe what other people are doing, we do
Right.
lots and lots of research to inform, and then we ask a lot of the elders in our community. Like we'll ask
Wow.
our mom, we'll ask aunts, we are just always asking people who are older than us, who have experience, who have stories, so that we can extract stories from them or get their perspective, that will help inform our book. And just as I was thinking about that, I just thought of one other thing, is that sometimes with being a mom and having all these facets that are just tugging at you and calling at
Right.
you for attention with a busy full-time schedule, sometimes it can be very hard to get the creative juices flowing. And so
Mm,
it helps me at least to keep it in perspective that this is something we're in for the long haul. So
long.
I might not be feeling creative right now. It's okay. So I'll just keep it and just, go do something else,
Right.
and then come back. And then I find that I'm able to just get in there, get in the zone, and start going. So
Absolutely. You did it?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of things. The
Yeah.
first one would kind of play on what Ufoma just said, about having so many things on your plate, and sometimes you don't have the bandwidth or the creativity to get through the milestone that you set for yourself. And I think
Right.
that's one of the reasons why I'm happy we went on this journey together, is because I have moments where I'm like, I'm done, like I'm over it, I'm burnt
Mm,
out, I'm tired. But she talks me through it and she's like, okay, these are all the things that we've done. Let's just do one more thing. And then I do one more
mm,
thing, and then I do one more thing, and then I do one more thing. So I think it's important not to do any vision that you have in life that you really are serious
mm,
about. I think it's important to have a partner on some level, accountability partner, like your someone that's going to work through the goal with you, like co-founding or co-authoring or working through everything with you. It's important that you have someone that can work with you, and that way you can bounce off each other's energy, you can uplift each other when the other person is feeling down, and you move much faster that way. So I would say don't do it alone. You can join, there are lots of communities that we did not know of until we started this journey, and they have been so crucial to our it's not that we're JK Rowling or anything, but our success to date has been
right.
because we didn't do it in a vacuum. We reached out both to each other and to people in the community and said, look, we have this challenge. Do you have any recommendations on how we can
Mm,
address it? And they were very helpful. So that's one. And then the last one I would say is putting yourself in the shoes of your audience. So I mentioned
mm,
earlier that our book is an alphabet book. It is
right.
for an African alphabet adventure. It is an alphabet book. And so we had to go through all the alphabets and think about what made the most sense. So we created an Excel doc and we said, okay, A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And then we listed the potential things that matched. And then we said, what is the most compelling thing that a child would connect to from these options? You have to think about what are they learning in school? They're learning their alphabets, so they're learning the sounds
Mm,
of the consonants and the vowels. So you have to make sure that your word gives them that same the sound that they're learning in school. You can't confuse them.
right.
You have to think about what looks good on paper in terms of the illustration. You don't want to illustrate something that looks boring and then you've lost the child's interest. So you have to think about what's going to be appealing to that age group. So you have to be very specific about who you're writing for. What are they learning about in school? What are the things that they really enjoy? Kids are that we're writing our first book is for age 0 to 5. They love colorful things. Our illustrator
Mm,
we went through several months of looking, not even discussing, of looking
wow.
for our illustrator. And it got to a point where I said, we're not, I mean, I seem like the Debbie Downer of the group. I was like, we're never going to find an illustrator. And my sister was like, no, we are, because we just, either like the portfolio wouldn't be right or they wouldn't be available or, the ones that we loved would just be so like prohibitively expensive that we knew we couldn't
Mm,
afford it.
right.
So, but we knew that the illustrations would be crucial because these are kids that don't know how to read yet and they just love that visual stimulation. So we had
Right.
to do a lot of research to find someone that had the portfolio that would really speak to our audience. So I think you really have to put yourself in the shoes of your reader and try to cater to them as much as possible. which is what we've tried to do. And, hopefully it pays off.
Right.
So,
I have no doubt that it will for sure pay off. I'm
yeah.
curious if you guys were to go back to how old are your daughters, your children age range right now?
My older one is 4.5. My younger one is 2.5.
Okay.
And my son is 2.
So if you guys had to go back to your 4, 5-year-old self and your mom or your dad or maybe a family friend told you ladies that you guys would one day have your own publishing company and be children's authors, would you all be surprised back then? Why or why not? I want to hear both of your answers.
Well, I would not. I
You
would
would.
not, because I'll tell you something about growing up. You would come to our house around after dinner, and you would not hear a soul talking. No one would be talking. All you would be hearing is just pages flipping.
Wow.
Everyone was buried in a book, and
Wow.
we wanted to read as much before mom says it's bedtime. We wanted to just finish. We wanted to finish that chapter or finish, that book. You would not hear talking. Everyone was like just pages. So if you told my, maybe not 4 or 5, but maybe like
Yeah.
8-year-old self that one day I would be doing this, I'd be like, I'd get behind that. It
Wow.
sounds, it sounds like it's a natural, organic flow.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely.
For you, you did it?
Yeah,
Would you?
I would agree. They say this thing where every parent wants their child, or every African parent, they say, wants their child to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. That definitely hit our family hard, like really hard, because we went that way.
Wow.
But we were very creative when we were younger. I used to draw, and it's something that I wish I kept up with. But I was also very, very, we read a lot. And because my sisters were older than me, I was reading their books. So I wasn't even reading like for my age, I was reading like my older sister's books. So at that point, I think if someone had told me that I would be doing this now, I wouldn't be surprised.
You wouldn't be
But I
surprised.
think, yeah, there's a lot of expectations. And also you yourself, you over time, you get I wouldn't say I'm happy that we have the flexibility and the ability to be multi hyphenate ladies. But, but yeah, so we're able to express those creative sides of us. But what I find many people don't have that. They're just like, this is what I have to be, and I'm
Right.
going to do. And they might be good at it, but it might not, if they were given the freedom, be what they would have chosen in the beginning. So I'm very happy that even though it wasn't something that I planned to do, that we kind of found our way back to that love of books that we had when we were growing up, because we did read a lot.
We
A
read
lot.
a lot.
Wow.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
clearly, it like you guys are saying, clearly it paid off. I mean, look where you both are today, just by reading and your parents really being your backbone in terms of wanting you guys to learn as much as you can. I think that's fantastic, and they really gave you guys a really strong foundation in reading and being creative. So my final question for you guys is. For anybody who's watching who may want to start their own publishing company or become an author, or maybe not even that, an engineer, IT, whatever, and they're just in this kind of rut where they're just feeling like, overwhelmed, kind of like Udhedhe was saying earlier, like just, overwhelmed, you're ready to stop, give up, just frustrated. What would you guys want them to take away from this interview in terms of, kind of the whole not giving up and just pursuing your passion regardless? If there's one thing someone can take away from this interview, what would you both want them to take away from you both individually and I guess collectively as two sisters as well, who are entrepreneurs, full-time jobs, wives, mothers, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, should I go?
Yeah, go.
Okay. One thing. So you want one thing. One
Yes,
thing I
if
would
you
say.
have a couple, that's fine. But if you have a couple, that's fine. But just the biggest takeaways for you.
Yes. Look for your cheerleader. Everyone
Mm,
needs a cheerleader. There's
Mm,
this song,
agree.
"Ooh, I think I have found
That's
myself a cheerleader."
exactly.
Everyone needs that cheerleader. Find your cheerleader. That's all I can say. Find that cheerleader who's going to help you bring out the magic that you already have inside you. And
Mm,
who's going to help you get through the tough times, because the tough times are going to come. They come for everybody. There are times when you're going to say, I don't even know why I'm doing this. I've lost the joy from this and I just want to stop. So find your cheerleader, because everybody has one. You have one. If you're listening, you have one. Look through, write down your list and find your one person or a couple people or however many, and tell them about your vision. Tell them about your dream, and tell them that you want them to help you in terms of, their ideas or however way you want them to help you. But find yourself your cheerleader, that's gonna stick with you through the rough times. And get plugged into your community, because there's no need for you to
that's a
reinvent the wheel. Yeah, there's no need for you to just start to do everything from scratch. Okay, get plugged into the community. And while I'm saying that, my sister and I are going to be working on this freely downloadable PDF that's going to be on our website, agbadabooks.com. So if you want to know when that free PDF comes out, follow at Agbada Books on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. That PDF is going to put all the resources that you need if you're looking to do a Kickstarter. So you don't have to start from scratch like we did. We're going to put everything together for you so that you have this one place with everything that you need to crush your Kickstarter. So yeah, find your community, and also find yourself your cheerleader.
those are absolutely great ones, especially well, really just both the cheerleader and then even the community, because I know a lot of times people just think I have to do it on my own. It's just my vision and they don't really want to reach out or explore the different avenues. But that is a really, really good one. And like you said, it can make the process down the line and the production phase easier if you do reach out and have your cheerleader and your community. So those were two really great ones. And you?
I would say I think community is huge. But I would also say time. You
Mm.
have to understand that life isn't a sprint, and everyone has their time. So I
Mm.
say every day, if you believe in something, do something to get yourself closer to that goal that you have for yourself. And even though some days you might feel like nothing is happening, but you're building something, you're building up momentum, and one day your time will come, and you will have, you will achieve it, but it's only going to be if you take a step every day to achieve your vision. So I would say you might look at, especially with social media these days, you see a lot of people, they're doing all these things, they look like they're living your dream. Maybe it's their time.
Right.
That's great, and congratulate them honestly. And a lot of people, they fake the funk, so to speak, on social media as well. So you just have to learn how to focus on yourself. Know that your time might not be now, it might be tomorrow, it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years. But if you really believe in it, then you need to put in the time and the work to get yourself to where you want to be. So I would say do put in your time, and you'll get what you're looking for. And then the last thing I would say is technology has made things so much easier, so much more
Mm.
accessible in terms of knowing what the resources are, in terms of
Right.
finding your community. Like I mentioned,
Yeah.
we plugged into a community that we never knew existed, but we just found stuff on Facebook or on Instagram, like just Googling stuff. You see a lot of
Mm.
things that are available. So you need to do your research, find out what people at the top of the game of your industry are doing, and then find out how you can emulate them or do what they're doing but better. And then you will get yourself closer to where you want to be. And then the last thing, the very last thing I would say, especially about when it comes to being a Black woman in a very I don't know what to call it, a very difficult field like engineering. Like I was always the only Black woman. I am always the only woman.
Wow.
So I do a lot of work in Africa, so I'm not the only Black person, thankfully. But in school, in my first work experience, like several years, I was always the only Black person. So you really have to just put your best foot forward. I know that sometimes you're going to be wrong, sometimes you're going to be right, but stand up for yourself, work
Mm.
hard, and don't let anybody make you feel like you're less than or that you don't know what you're doing, because that's going to happen. But you have to just build it up from within, like be confident in what you know the ropes of your job, and present yourself as best as you can. I think you'll do well. You do well eventually. I could go on forever. So I think those are just some few thoughts I hope will be helpful to someone out
Yes.
there.
For
Yeah.
sure. You said something that just made I know I said it was the last question, but you just made it go off and be, I just have to address it really fast is especially what you said about being, Black woman, and then you're in these spaces where you're usually, if not the only woman, especially the only woman of color is there. And I just want to share with viewers, which is why this is so important, because representation is so important. So it's just like you said, in terms of combining community and technology, that's why I think it's so important for all of us together, especially women and men of color, like how we touched on earlier within the African diaspora, and African Americans and Africans coming together, because we definitely need to show up and show out in these spaces, because society has just told us for so long that certain spaces only look like this, should only, be this. I mean, if we think about now, we have the first woman, Southeast Asian and African American vice president. 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that would have been unheard of. That's, people, women of color, women in general, that's not their space. And so that's really key, because I think even within just the children's book author industry, we could say the same thing, where people may not really feel like, okay, these childhood stories about African children exist, in this space. This is, these books are more so for these people, are only catered to a certain, group. And so I really think, and that's why I'm a big key for representation, because I do think it helps children in general build confidence and self-esteem. And I know I read a study where in school they were showing that children, when we learn about our culture and our history, not just during, African American History Month, or, Hispanic Heritage Month, or certain months or days that are dedicated, but if we're constantly like learning about it and not just, relegating it to just 1 month, it making it just a continued thing, just making it become a part of everyday life. And that's why, Agbada Books is so important, because you guys are showing up and putting yourselves in these spaces, putting, Africans and people of color in these spaces, and it's becoming a part of everyday life, not just here, we're dropping this book out because it's February and it's Black History Month and we want to teach our children, and that way children, like you said, we're colorblind at that age. We don't know, we don't know anything. We're just naturally curious. But if I grew up like how you guys said, just pages and pages, it's quiet after dinner reading, and I'm always reading about people who look like me and people who don't, I'm not going to think like I'm the special case or I'm the novelty because I'm the African American, woman who's an engineer, in this space. It shouldn't be a situation where it's like that, where, you're the only one. And unfortunately, that's the reality of today's times that we live in. Yeah, things are getting, a little bit better little by little, but unfortunately, it's still kind of just, not the norm. And I wish I could say even right now, like Agbada Books is something that like, oh, we have this, we have books like these all around. But unfortunately, right now, me doing this interview, it's kind of like, hey guys, this exists, simply because people don't know or think it exists. You know what I mean? Just having to let people know that, hey, this does exist. You can buy these books. They do talk about, African stories. So sorry if I'm going on a tangent here, but what
Love
you
it.
said really, really just spoke to me in terms of we have to do better in terms of representation, and especially educating and teaching children and young adults that people of color, we're not limited and we belong and are in every space. Yeah, especially the we belong, because a lot of times growing up we'll feel like we don't. I can't tell you how many times I've met other African Americans like me who, like, for example, me and my best friend, we were the only two Black people in our grade, at a private school. And so there's just so many situations where, people are the only one, the only one, the only one. And that really just has to change. And so to tie all that into I promise you guys, my last final question. My last final question. So just curious though, growing up in Nigeria. Okay, well, first let me ask you guys, when did you come to the United States? What age? Because I don't want to put any misinformation out there.
I was 17. I was
17? Okay.
Yeah.
I was maybe 24, 23 or 24.
Okay. So I'm curious for you guys, when you going from a country where everyone mostly looks like you, right? And you know where you come from, you're full of pride, you know your culture, to the US, what was that adjustment kind of like for you guys? To where you go from seeing, I'm sure I'm sure back in Nigeria, it's not uncommon to see women who look like you, who are authors, teachers, right? Writers, doctors, lawyers, etc. But then you come over to the US and it's like something that's rare. So I kind of want to know what you guys experienced and how was that adjusting?
Wow.
You want me to go, or you want me to go?
I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go.
Okay.
That's a very, very great question because, like you said, I was coming from a place where I wasn't, for lack of a better way of putting it, I wasn't different. I wasn't
Right. Yeah.
special, or there's nothing about my hair. There's nothing about I was not self-conscious about anything. Just
Right.
live my life. I didn't think that I was different from anybody else. I'm just a human. I just
Right.
saw myself as a human. But I traveled and then I realized that I was a person of color. Uh,
Mm.
Traveled and then realized that, oh, some people ask, what's with your hair?
Mm.
Even at work, I would be in a meeting and someone would be like, your hair is interesting today. And we would go on this tangent about my hair. And then
Oh.
I would learn from someone else that I was supposed to be offended by that. And I'm like, truly, I wasn't. I just, I've never been conscious about my hair. It's just my hair. But,
Right.
so it was just a huge adjustment for me. And I spent this summer in Asia, and then I would be in a train and I would suddenly feel all eyes on me. In
Wow.
like, you know how you're just sitting and maybe reading a book, and then you
Reading
just
books, right.
feel like everybody's like,
People's like,
and then I would look up to confirm that what I felt was real, and then everybody would just look away. And then some people would be, bold and be like, can I touch your skin, or can I take a picture with you, or can you tell me a little bit about
wow.
you, stuff like that. And I never experienced, so it was a huge shift for me, a huge change. And I'll tell you that I'm trying to raise my children to just realize that they are human beings. You
Mm.
know, we're no different. We
Right.
all bleed the same.
Right.
And so I'm trying to be very intentional about that, because I just don't want my kids to have to deal with that layer where you have to do your hair a certain way in the office, so your hair doesn't
Right.
become the topic of discussion in a meeting,
Mhm.
or just it's just, yeah. So I just want them to be comfortable and just be themselves, and just realize that we're all human beings at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I came when I was little, I was much younger, and I went to a school where I was a super minor. I went to, I don't know what to call. Anyways, I went to school in Maine. I'll just put it out there so you can picture
Wow.
what it was like. Yeah. So that was for undergrad. I did go for undergrad. So for my master's, I went to Georgetown. So it was a little bit more of a diverse experience.
Yeah.
But just existing, like my sister said, where you are just another person on the street, and then
Mhm.
suddenly I came in, and I was just experiencing a lot of I don't know what to call it. I realized that I was standing for something
Mm,
without being prepared for that. So I think I had to change my awareness of that, especially
Mm,
once I started working and I started realizing that I'm here and everything that I do, I'm an example
an example.
of a
Right.
broader group, which I never had to be before. All I had to do was just be myself. But now it's
Mhm.
like if I do something wrong, I'm confirming whatever stereotype you have about what a Black person should do. If I'm doing something right, I'm confirming that I'm this unicorn, or like so it was tough. And like my sister said, I didn't even know, for example, that certain things people were saying to me were wrong. And so I guess I
Mm,
frustrated them because I didn't even give them, they wanted to get a rise out of
nice
me.
of you. Right.
And I was just like, la di da di da, what are you talking about? And it was only years later, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that to me in a meeting,
Mm,
because, like it happens. But I would say it shouldn't really stop you, because at the end of the day, you'll be different for something.
mhm.
It's like when you're in school as a child, they're gonna pick up on you because you're short. They're gonna
True.
pick on you because you're tall. They're gonna
Yep.
pick on you because you're light. They're gonna pick
Yep.
on you because you're dark.
Yep.
So no matter what you do, you have some uniqueness about yourself. And now it's up to you to just accept who you are and be the best person you can be. And yes, you are an example, especially as a Black person in the US, in certain spaces, because other areas are more diverse than others.
Right.
But do your best, know your job, be genuine, and then the people that understand you as a human being will flock to you, and
Right.
those that have any sort of issues, they will go find whatever it is that they need to do, and they will do it, because you just will be surrounded with people that appreciate you, which is what I was able to do over the course of several years. Was I built myself a community of people, both in my personal life and my work life,
Then your
that
work.
were able to kind of support me and make me confident and comfortable. So I guess at the end of the day, it all comes down to community. If you're working in an environment where you feel like you're really alone, it can be very frustrating. But if you spend the time to identify the people that are in your corner, whether they're Black, whether they're white, whether they're
Right.
whatever it is they are, it will really help things move in a positive direction for you. So from leadership to your colleagues to your people that are your subordinates, you have to
Absolutely.
identify people that are in your corner, like your cheerleaders, like Ufuoma said, and you just have to stick to them and just move with them, and you'll be fine. So that's what I did. That's what I do wherever I go. I find people that they see me for who I am or who I want to be, and they believe in me, and I stay with them, and I try to find them in all tiers of the organization. And I'm saying this because it's just kind of a big picture thing, but I think in
Mhm.
life that's what you have to do. That's really what you have to do. You have to build your community every single place you go.
Yeah.
Whether you're a baby or a child on the playground, you have to find your crew.
Right.
Whether you're in college, you have to find your crew. Are you an athlete? You have to find your crew. Are
True.
you an engineer? You have to find your crew. So I would say it was very interesting going from a place where I just blended in and I was just another person to kind of
Right.
sticking out with a sore thumb. But at the end of the day, I took the time and I made my own friends, and they helped me get by. And that's really all you need to thrive, is your own group of people. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Ah,
as
powerful.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
was just going to say that she
yeah.
said something I remembered when I first came here, and I would be the only Black person in an office.
Mm,
I would be so overwhelmed by that I would
mm,
be in a meeting and I would somehow I've always been very loud mouthed and outspoken and quite a chatterbox, as the data
yeah.
knows. I could go yada 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 all day long. But as I would be in a meeting as an engineer and I'm the only Black person in a room of like 20, 25, 30 people. And I would
Mm,
just and when I first came here, I would be so overwhelmed by that my my loud mouthedness just went away. You know,
Yeah.
I had to take some time to get my mojo, to find my voice,
find
and
that. Wow.
yeah, to get my courage, my strength back. So if that's what you're going through, it's okay, and you give yourself some time, and eventually you get your mojo back. And when that mojo comes, honey, you're gonna be unstoppable. I'm telling you, you're gonna be unstoppable. You'll be a force
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
whatever space you're in. That was my journey.
Mm,
Now I in my career as an IT projects manager, I was one of those project managers one of those it just happens. Like you just own it and they say, can you do this other job? Can you manage this other project? And then you
mm,
just find yourself, you're just naturally speaking up and owning things, and your responsibility increases and you become a voice of influence in your space. So give yourself some time if you're going through that, because if you give yourself time, your natural inner strength will come out and you will be able to, like Udhedhe said, know your job, own your voice, and be who you really are on the inside. So, yeah.
mm. Gosh. Again, so powerful. Gosh, you guys gave such great tips. I'm loving this interview so much. I don't want it to end. But lastly, I just wanted to, I have y'all's information on the screen, but just in case I left any social media out or anything else that you guys want to share, whoever wants to read off all the social medias or where they can go to learn more about you, or if you all have personal pages, please share that right now so that viewers can know where they can go get the books, and if they have any questions, and or if you guys have any events coming up, please, please, please share with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say you got most of it right, but I think we have a Twitter now. We're on Twitter now with yeah. So it's at Agbada Books on all platforms. Let's
On
just
all
put it that
platforms.
way. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not a social media person. This is really truly my most interactive time social media wise of my life. But so yeah, but on our page you see any events that we have coming up.
Okay.
Our book projects will be on there. We also highlight other authors and other illustrators that are doing great work. So I think if you're a parent looking to diversify your child's bookshelf, our page is great to follow because we are kind of keeping our eyes on the space, and we
Mhm.
highlight people that are doing really great projects. So I think if you're looking for something to do to diversify your child's bookshelf, follow us as well. Also, we'll be doing our projects as well, so you can be keeping up to date with what we're doing. And then, of course, our Kickstarter is available for pre-order. Agbadabooks.kickstarter.com. You will see everything you need to know about our first book, and I promise you that you'll love it because it's a book that every child would love to read. I see myself as a child just loving that book, and so I think it's something that any parent or any aunt, any aunt or uncle or godmother or anyone with a child that they love in their lives, I think you should get that book for them because you will have a great experience reading it with them. So yeah, I don't know I don't think do we have anything else in terms of sharing of social media?
Our website, abadabooks.com, is our website.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Perfect.
abadabooks.com.
yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys both so much for taking time out your day to do this interview and come on this show. You both were absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so excited that I got to have you. For those of you who are just now tuning in, unfortunately, we are at the conclusion of today's show, but you can always go back and watch this show at Texas Metro News Facebook page. I'll be sharing it, and there will be a YouTube link provided as well, so you guys can check out the interview. Again, all of their information is here at the bottom of the screen for you guys to learn more if you have any questions. Thank you both so much. It was so fun, and I would love to have you guys back on the show as well to update us. If you have, any other books or events, please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to share all of that on social media and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Jira.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Alrighty, you guys, I enjoyed talking to both of them so much. These two sisters, they're absolutely incredible. And again, if you're just now tuning in, I definitely encourage you guys to go back and watch the interview, because you're going to learn so much. And we talked about so many great things today, and you can just learn more about them and the books and what their vision and what they're trying to do. So I will see you guys back here again next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. with some more exciting and amazing guests who are shaking things and making a difference in their world and their communities. So until next Tuesday, you guys have a great week.